So there was definitely a cutoff CGPA, but beyond that, it was never really mentioned in the interviews. They asked which branch I was from because it's an IT related job and they had to be sure that I can be trusted with it. So there were 6 rounds during the hiring process and you had to qualify the round to go to the next one. So the first one was a logical reasoning test where there were 12 questions and you had 75 seconds to solve one of them. So it was a total of 15 minutes and you had to be quick and accurate. And the next one was a numerical ability test where you had a table of data and related to that there would be 3 questions. And there were 4 such tables, so a total of 12 questions again. And the next was the coding round. So there were 90 minutes, one question for 30 minutes and the other one for 60 minutes. And if you qualified the necessary cutoff, you would be going to the interviews. The first interview was more of a technical one where you were questioned about your coding skills, your background, like the ones you mentioned in your CV, and some questions related to your project. The next one was an aptitude-based interview where you were given certain questions on coding and you were asked to improve or make them more efficient. And you were also questioned about the things that you have mentioned in the CV. And the last but definitely not the least was the HR interview to ensure that your background is enough and suitable for the company, so that you don't have anything hidden which should be detrimental for the company. Okay, this might sound a bit cliche, but the most important thing for an interview is to be confident. I mean, you definitely have qualified a lot of rounds before coming to the interview, so there is something definitely in you. And most people forget that an interview is a dialogue. So just because they are asking you the question doesn't mean that they have an upper hand, so you don't have to surrender yourself. You always need to keep control of the conversation. If there is a point where you forget to answer the question or you're struggling, you can always seek some help or take your time. They will always be willing to help you. And in the end, in today's time, they always have this question that, do you have any questions for us? You should always ask something interesting. It can always come in handy. You never know. Well, it's a tricky question. I mean, it's a slippery slope. Many of the times, it depends on the interviewer whether he would appreciate a no or an effort. I mean, see, as a human, we are bound to miss out on a few things. The syllabus is so vast that you can't remember everything. Even I missed out the definition of an arrow pointer. But in the end, it's all about showing that optimistic skill, that you have that problem-solving ability. So if you ask me, I would rather say that you can be honest about it, that you're not sure but you would like to make a guess. The interviewer is there to help you with the interview process. He does not need someone who can solve anything and everything or who knows. He wants someone who can improve, who can learn, who's ready to face challenges and who's optimistic about it. So I think you should be honest and you should not pretend to be someone else. Just be who you are. So work experience and projects definitely matter. I mean, 70% of the people who are going there with the interviews, they also know the same things that you do. I mean, they have studied from the same books. What sets you apart is how you use that knowledge to solve something or to create something. At the end of the day, that is what really matters. Anyone can learn things, but to use it, to put it forth in practice, that's what sets you apart. That's what helps you in differentiating. You should go about telling people, if you're asked about your project, you should firstly tell the problem that you've wanted to improve or work upon, and what your program or your project does to help in this regard. You should always talk about what are the things that it improves upon, what are the limits that it has, and what are the conditions or assumptions that you have made. Also, you can be asked about why you didn't take any alternative step which is present there. So you should always be confident. I mean, you have created it, so it is expected you to be knowing it inside out. So you should be ready to face questions from any angle. Just be prepared and know the project like the back of your hand. So it might appear weird, but soft skills definitely matter in these interviews. You know, when you're going for such jobs, you know that the technical aspect is going to be checked, but to convey this idea in a way that the person understands, and having the confidence to face a complete stranger and to convince him that you are fit for the job is something that only and only your soft skills can determine, and your soft skills can help you with it. As a proud member of 𝐁𝐫𝐨𝐜𝐻 and 𝐿𝐿𝐻𝐶, I can assure you that it was something that I'll always be indebted to both of these clubs. Their rigorous practice and the regular sessions, they helped me develop that confidence to go and face anyone and talk to them as confidently as I'm talking to this in this interview. And it's okay, we're all bound to make mistakes, but it is something that you develop with practice. And I would like to thank both of my clubs for giving me that pedestal, that stage, and making me who I am today. So generally people make one resume for the entire intern season and they think it should be fine. I mean, that's who they are. But I believe you should always tweak your resume according to the company you're going for. There should always be points which reflect the company values that they're going for, and it should not appear to be something that you're boasting of. It should not be a desperate or a needy one. Like, you should not be flaunting things. Rather, you should be portraying those skills which you believe will be beneficial for the company. Many of the times people they do 10% of the job, but they claim it to be a 40% thing. Always remember that they will be scrutinizing your CV very, very closely. So if you lie, you'll be caught, and that is a really, really nasty situation. So avoid doing that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's you being reflected on a piece of paper. So be honest, you'll have to answer it. So majorly two things. I mean, we have an amazing coding culture in our college. I mean, you can see this. Whenever there is a coding round of code chef or code forces, the entire college is quite still, as almost 80% of the people are busy giving that test. What they forget is it will help you qualify one of those rounds. To reach coding round, you have to qualify the aptitude test, the numerical ability test, and there are rounds beyond that. There are interviews where you'll be asked about your projects. I have seen people struggle because they didn't have any project until the last moment. And also, if they have one, they are unable to explain it. You might be understanding everything, but if you can't explain the next person the things you understand, it just might not get the value, or its worth might not be recognized, and you will be the one at loss. So you need to be an all-round person. You know, coding is a big thing, but it's definitely not everything. You should always take some time to meet people, to get in touch with strangers, to get that confidence so that you can be presentable and you can talk to anyone, everyone about anything and everything. People tend to get conscious during the interviews, like they're always thinking what the other person might be judging me about. The other person is just there to know who you are and how capable you are. So the only thing that you need to do is be you. If you're worth it, you will qualify. It's like going for a test, but being conscious that I have to score more marks. So you're going to do anything and everything that you can, like taking some unnecessary steps, risking everything. But all the test needs to do is evaluate you for who you are. So I think the interviews are tough because we are struggling with our identity. In those 10 to 15 minutes, if we just stay calm, composed, and ourselves without worrying about the other person. I mean, the other person is not trying to be someone he is not, and why should we? We might think that there's a lot at stake, but I think our integrity is something that we should not let go of. This was the only interview that I gave, and luckily I qualified, so I would be biased and say that this was the best interview I had. I mean, the aptitude interview where Bindu ma'am was asking me questions was really interesting because she noticed a point that I had mentioned, that I was the founder of the stand-up club in our college, and she was really curious about what the stand-up club was and what did it do. I thought she would ask me to tell some jokes, but she didn't, although I was prepared for it. Last minute tips for batchmates and juniors. Well, you might wonder whether you're worth it. I mean, it's a sea of people who are quite worthy and they've been working so hard. I know people who definitely deserve this much more than me, but eventually things do fall in place. Maybe they are meant to be in a better place. And yeah, just remember that the last time you gave a consequential exam, you qualified for an IIT. So you'll definitely ace this one too. Just have faith in yourself and know your worth. Shukriya.